Welcome, everyone, to episode 31 of the Conscious Capitalist podcast. And I'm very excited today. We've got someone who I've only known for a very short while and only through the computer, and her name is Sherry Thacker. She's got a She's been a seasoned entrepreneur with 25 years of experience in business and 20 years of coaching women in both health and small business startups. In 2017, Sherry took her coaching business 100% online and spent 7 years mastering the art of operating and growing an online business. After achieving a seven-figure success story, Sherry recently released a new program teaching high-performing online coaches and agencies to tap into the true profit centers of their business so they can prioritize their focus on explosive growth. That sounds great, without jeopardizing memorable moments that make life matter. So we're really going to talk about how to stay sane during these stressful business times. With this new economy coming out, Sherry's going to walk us through some practical tips and techniques to stay sane and keep your business growing during these stressful times. So thanks for coming on the Conscious Capitalist podcast, Sherry.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. No, we actually met just through Facebook not that long ago. And I said, this sounds just perfect for my audience to help everyone understand that I don't like calling it a balance between your life and work, but it really is. You have to juggle how do you stay alive and thrive during these times. And I was just looking back through my notes on some of the other questions I've posed guests over the past couple years. And these really remind me of the same questions that happened just after COVID hit, when there was just this panic, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? We don't know what's going on. And that amount of stress and uncertainty creates stress in the human body. So, welcome, Sherry. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on some great tips and techniques to help people deal with this stress for their business and their personal life.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Barbara, for having me here. And I guess I'll walk through initially some things that you can add to your checklist as far as self-care and some self-management that you can do. Because I think that the toughest thing that we have to overcome as entrepreneurs during this time is the brain getting in the way. And we create all of these scenarios that could happen, especially when we're fearful, and we're wired to think that way. We're wired to be able to be alert and to be aware of danger and to try and prevent danger from happening. So we often spend so much time predicting what if this happens, what if that happens, and then we end up creating a lot of fear, and then you get a little bit of paralysis during your everyday life. Do you ever find that to be true, Barbara?
It really is because, and sometimes for me, I know I want to make things perfect. Like if it's not right, I just don't do it. It's like, well, that's not always the right answer either. Sometimes done is better than perfect. And I shouldn't say sometimes, probably most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first half that I can talk about is, kind of some personal care management strategies, at least that I follow. Hopefully you'll find them to be helpful as well. And then from a business perspective, some of the things that you can do to really wire up your personal online business. We're going to focus on online business chat, I believe, today,
Yeah.
for what you can do to really thrive during the economy that's coming in our midst in 2023. So the day really starts the night before. So some of the best practices, and I know you've heard this all before, but after 15 years and 5,000 health clients later, having a regular evening routine is not easily mastered, but it's mandatory. So when you can get to bed at a regular scheduled time, which allows you to wake up at a scheduled time, you start the day off running right then and there. So what ends up happening is people are so busy during the day, then they need to deal with kids at night, or they push work later into the evening, into 10, 11, 12, the Gary V push until 2 o'clock in the morning. When you have all these erratic schedules, it's
Yeah.
very difficult for your brain to be wired to be consistent. And our bodies, through the circadian rhythm, really need to be synchronized with the sun. And we need a routine, and we need things to be able to flow in cycles with some bit of a prediction. So when you're if you're dealing with a lot of stress and you're dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and you're constantly, struggling throughout your day, trying to make decisions of the unknown, The best thing is to control the elements of your life that you can control. One of those being your sleeping patterns to the best of your ability, which means going to bed every night at a reasonable hour. I love to say 9. I am in bed by 9 religiously every night. I would say 60 days out of the whole year, I'm not in bed by 9. The rest of the time, like clockwork, waking up in the morning and having that miracle morning. We've all heard Hal Elrod talk about waking up, doing whatever form of meditation or prayer or silence or yoga or deep breath work, whatever it is for you that just brings the sympathetic nervous system down and keep yourself nice and calm. You don't have to be a yogi on a mountaintop to realize that just by bringing your parasympathetic nervous system down so that you can stay calm. And that allows you to start the day with a little bit more certainty versus when you get up in a hurry, you got to rush to get kids off, you haven't planned out your day, you get to the computer a little frantic, and already you're kind of wiring and starting off that day in that way. Does that make sense, Barbara?
It really does. And I think people grotesquely underestimate how valuable sleep is. And I know for many years, I used to try all the biohacking things from Tim Ferriss on how to sleep less. I tried everything like, oh, he's like, I can get by with 4 hours. It's like, I can do 6. I was routinely got very little more than 6. And now I know I'm an 8-hour person minimum. And if it's not 8, it's not good. And you can get by one day, but I can't get by for an entire week or an entire month or an entire year of doing that. And I think sleep is the greatest restorative thing that we could possibly do to help bring the body back into balance. And you can't be at your peak and perform at your peak during the day, whatever it is that your day entails, if you're not rested and you're not well. And all healing occurs in a deeply relaxed state. And if you're not relaxed and you haven't slept, you're starting off on the wrong foot, and it may not go well.
I'll tell you, what you're saying is 100% accurate. And if you're not already familiar with some sleep studies, I highly recommend to do a little bit of research on this. Sean Stevenson is a great resource to go on YouTube for you to just understand the science, because it's too broad to go into during the scope of this podcast, but just narrowed down to just say that when you're stressed and you're sleep deprived, your brain will not function properly. You're going to make erratic decisions. You're going to feel frantic. You're going to feel more anxious. You're going to add belly fat. Belly fat's going to further add to more stress, and so on and so forth. And we can really, I can
no, it's
expand
not
it
good.
forever
It's
about
definitely
that.
not good. Yeah.
But sleep, sleep is highly underrated. And there's a very small percentage of the population that can go on a 4-hour sleep. And this is genetics. This is straight up genetics. So if you're listening to Donald Trump or any of these guys who are like, 4 hours is all you need, they're genetically wired that way. But the majority of the population is not. So when you wake up in the morning, you need to have some form of physical activity. And I'm not saying you got to go and do CrossFit or anything crazy, but the breath work, oxygenating your body, oxygenating your brain, getting, all the juices flowing up there. Exercises, helps to remove stress from the body. You want to be able to start your day invigorated. If you're into cold baths, I do that too. It's another great way to lower the sympathetic nervous system, spike up dopamine, get the inflammatory system, reduce inflammation is what I meant to say. So these are some great practices first thing in the morning, but whatever floats your boat, you need a routine. And every guru out there is going to say that. We try to wake up every morning at the same time, do some breath work, gratitude, prayer, whatever that is for you. Do a little bit of activity, whether it be a stretching, yoga, or a CrossFit, or run outside, get invigorated. Eat, if you decide to eat breakfast, have something more protein-based. If you're fasting, making sure you have lots of great hydrations. These are just some of those predictable things that if you are an anxious person, if you're OCD, or if you're any of these things, giving yourself a regular routine and controlling what you can control is one of the first practices throughout the day that you can do to really manage your your physical body, and then we can talk about mindset
Well,
on your
you
problem.
work with a lot of entrepreneurs over the year. How do you think that aspect of them taking care of their health really impacts their business?
They're guilty. They feel guilty if they
Yeah.
take time to exercise. And I think this is starting to change. I mean, you'll find that a lot of true successful people, the more you speak with those people, the more you'll hear them say, my fitness was non-negotiable. So I think what happens is that when people wake up in the morning, they get an idea or they think of something they've got to do. And a lot of people work from home. So the first thing they do is get to that computer and they get typing and they off into their day, and then, oh, I'll do it later. And that never really seems to happen. But
Well,
it's such a machine. Your body, your mind is such a machine, and you need to wire it.
maybe we could jump into that real quick since so many more people are working from home, particularly with COVID shifting that whole paradigm. Instead of being an option, it seems to be more mandatory for so many people. It was my biggest desire. And one of the reasons I quit corporate America was I wanted my own schedule. I wanted to be able to work from home and spend more time with the kids. And it was for me a non-negotiable. And I see a lot more people obviously choosing that route. How do you think you can help them keep their business running from home and add that routine in? Because I can imagine a lot of people really struggling with getting the kids out and still, what time would a mother need to get up to get the kids off to school and still get her miracle morning in?
Yeah, that can be a challenge for a lot of people. And after 15 years of heavy lifting and convincing people why it was so important, it's not easy to
Yeah,
necessarily get that across, because I think people either get it or they don't.
yeah,
And when they don't truly value that time that's invested and make the priority, where I will easily sacrifice so many other things instead of sacrificing my workout. Because to me, my workout is my power out. It's my power up during the morning. It allows my brain to wake up, function, and think in its peak performance. Giving that time, if I'm running on the treadmill or spinning or doing whatever the thing, I'm processing, I'm thinking about the things I want to manage, and I'm not distracted with all the notifications and the browsers and all the different tabs up on my computer thinking, oh, I got to do this. You're not thinking through your problems.
yeah.
So I think that, it has to be scheduled. I get up at 4 in the morning, Barbara, to make that
Hmm.
happen in my life. So that's why I'm in bed by 9, because
Yeah.
at 4, I give myself from 4 until 4:30 to kind of get my wits together, and then 4:30 get up, get my hydrations, get to the gym, boom, boom, boom. By 6:15, I'm getting my son up and getting him ready to go to bed, to school. So I think that really, it has to be a priority in your life, and you have to schedule it wherever that's going to be for you. Some people are 4 a.m., you're out of your mind, you're crazy. So that means getting it at lunch. I don't really advise in the evening time. A lot of times it gets brushed off, number one. Number two, fitness is going to spike cortisol. It's going to pump you up before bed, and you're going to have a harder time falling asleep.
Well, I think, do you want to talk a little bit about that link as well between oxygen and the brain and being able to get that flow of oxygen going early so that you have that oxygen ready for the brain that demands so much of that oxygen?
Yeah, it boils down to the shallow breathing that we do throughout the day. And if you take note for yourself, you just do these little tiny breaths, and, you go onto YouTube and there's just so many different videos that you can follow for. There's actually 32 different ways of breathing, believe it or not. And if you just pick one that works for you and take the time to really, expand the lungs, hold the breath. For me, it's through fitness. It's through cardiovascular
Yeah,
activity and just really stimulating, your hormones, your endorphins, all those great things that while you're sweating and you've got your lymphatic system moving. So when you're jumping up and down, your body's lymphatic system, which is part of your garbage disposal, is allowing all of the toxins to pump through your body and
yeah,
sweat it all out. All of these things, you just cannot negotiate on that. I wrote a book and it's called Your Health is Non-Negotiable. And that's because your health, your body is not going to negotiate with you, which means that if you have a cookie in the afternoon just because you worked out, your body does not see that as a fair exchange. It's still going to see this cookie and it's going to see the gluten, and it's going to see the vegetable oils and the sugars and the preservatives put inside, and it's got to process those toxins in the body. It's not a calorie in or out decision.
That's an interesting relationship there, because I think a lot of people like to do those trade-offs, whatever that is, thinking like, oh, I got my workout in, I can do anything I want today.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, let's get down to some of these other things that you're working on now. So you actually started a new project to help people increase the profit centers of their business for coaches, agencies, consultants, and all types of online service-based businesses. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I think as we're going into this economy, you're going to see a pushback on, let's say, I'll speak from an online coach or consultancy point of view, where you may have subscriptions, you may have payment plans you've put out there, and people are going to start to default on their payments. And that's when you have to look at the profit centers of your business. So one realization that I came to understand in the coming years was that, your business in itself is a product. And one day your business might be, positioned where it can be acquired or bought, or you may not want to sell it at all. But if you've built it in a way that it's a marketable product, it's a profitable product, then everybody wins. You want to keep it, you got a very valuable asset there. You want to sell it, it's attractive. It's fully set up for someone to want to just buy it, take it, and run with it. So when you start to think about your business as a product, now you can look at the individual products that your business has. So as an example, your email list is a very important asset of your business, and it's a standalone marketable asset of your business.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will use emails as a means to an end to nurture their client towards their big ticket sale. But that's not the only reason why you might have a huge email list. So when you're thinking about, let's say, offering a really good, valuable newsletter that's going to incorporate some valuable tips, maybe it's got a sponsor, maybe you've got an advertiser or an affiliate link, products that you want to promote. If you focus on building 100,000 emails in a list and more, this is a standalone product that can be used to promote, to do joint ventures, to partner with people as they come into your business. That's just one example, Barbara.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really don't understand what the depth and breadth of that email list can be for them.
Absolutely. So, I see them as you've got your email list. And if you focus on building this pillar of your business, when times are tight, that very valuable email list that you have, no matter what's happening on social media, you still have a direct way of communicating with your customer. You still have a segmented list that allows you to tell any partner or joint venture person that's interested in doing business with you, I've got 63,000 men between 45 and 55, and they love to click on links that look like this. Here's a whole bunch of reports that show the click-through rate on my newsletter.
Yeah.
So that's one opportunity. Another one is in the community. And it's so important this particular year to double down on human connection, because a few things have happened. You've had the pandemic where we've been locked away from human connection outside of our family. You've had this extreme growth of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reels, all these 15-second, interludes of people that with all these fake filters and everything that's been masked, and you've had all these people putting on fake lives, and the majority of us, we're done with that. Like we're up to here on fake, filtered, plumpy lips, like the whole thing. So the more you can double down on community, real connections. That's how Barbara and I met just a couple of weeks ago. Just I dialed her up on Facebook and I said, hey, do you want to have a coffee? Let's meet. And look here, what's happening. Now we have a great podcast going.
And that was actually, and I said to Sherry, it was actually refreshing to me, because I get, as I'm sure so many people do, those bogus, oh, be my friend, hey, let's just have a chat. It's like, I don't know if I want to have a chat with you until you tell me that there's something interesting, or something, somehow we're connected, or we share some common bond or something, because I just find it really repulsive. There are a lot of people out there coaching people to just blindly like and friend everybody and send them all these messages, and then they're your list, and it's like I'm not your list until we actually have a connection, and they're missing that human element part of you have to find some common ground to say, do we have a connection or not, you know? So
100%. And when we got on the phone, I didn't try to sell you anything. I just said, let's see what we have in common. Let's have a conversation and let's see if we can help support one another. And I think that that's more important now more than ever. I think you're going to see a rising let's say explosion of that business model of people that are creating real networking events. I've been invited to 3 of them in this past week alone, of people looking to build community outside of social media,
yeah,
networking, speed networking, coffee breaks, brainstorming sessions, all of these things where people want real human connections that become real and are developed over time. Just like, Tinder versus old-fashioned dating. It's not these quick little connections anymore. It's something that has to be nurtured over time the old-fashioned way. But when they are nurtured the right way, it's pure gold. It's bond. It's more than just making the sale or swiping a credit card. It's the experiences, it's the moments, the memories, the things that you start to build with people that
yeah,
really mean
exactly.
something.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, and I think the world was starving for that human contact and that human interactions. And I think particularly with all of the digital, maybe we talk a little bit about that. How do you make digital feel real and feel and create that and continue that human connectedness? We were chatting before we start a little bit about AI. Maybe it's time to throw that in here, that where you have a machine, some machines actually are better communicators than humans are. How
Yeah.
does all that, how do you think that's all gonna filter out?
Well, there's 2 important things. I think as an entrepreneur, it's a big mistake to ignore AI and to not understand what that means and how it's going to impact your business, because there are people that are going to quadruple down on it, and they are going to fly with it. So there are a lot of people that I've spoken to that are already, the panic has set in. What does this mean? And it's natural. These are normal fears. We're genetically wired to respond this way. But once you start to study AI and you start to understand that this is a tool that just really, it doesn't take your arm away, it just gives your arm a whole lot more power.
Yeah,
So understanding how to train your team now, that instead of them writing for 7 hours on copy or email copy, what is it called, website copy, they can use AI to put out a framework and then use their expertise to fine tune it and tweak it. But I will say that we're in the infancy stages. This is embryo time. This is pre-kindergarten, where
yeah,
everyone is on the same playing field. It's all new. It's a few months old and we're all on the same playing field. But if you do not learn as that evolution comes, you will be left behind. And those people you're going to have that difference between the people that rise and the people who are going to sink and fall hard. And that is one thing that I would suggest, that if you do nothing else, just understand the tools that are being made available, understand how to leverage them within your business while doubling down on the human connection.
yeah. Yeah, and so to me, that still needs that human who is actually still a good copywriter or is very authentic and knows how to add their human voice to the voice of a robot, even if you're saying, hey, make this in a motivational tone or inspirational tone, it still needs
Yes.
you to say, this is what I want it to say, and this is how I'm going to take this basic couple of paragraphs or even 1,000-word article and fine tune it for what you want it to, how you want it to read and what you want it to say.
Correct. I saw a YouTube tutorial on how to use ChatGPT to write CEO or SEO blogs, where
Yeah,
you're really lacing in your keywords and also, the products that you're looking to promote on your blogs. So in just really understanding the correct way of prompting GPT, and it really is like having a conversation with a robot. It's not like Google, where
yeah,
you just type in and say, write this kind of a blog for me. It is a dialogue between you and the machine. And
yeah,
then once you go through a series of steps and utilize that tool, you can get a page that may have taken you a couple of days to write and look for the keywords and understand what's trending, and then plug those in and figure out where in this blog you're going to write it and all that stuff. But you just use the tool to refine and refine and refine. So it still very much needs human interaction, but you need to understand how to use the tool effectively.
Yeah, I agree. And for someone like myself who hasn't done a lot of SEO for many years, it really can help really spark that. You go get the SEO, double check those keywords for me, and figure out how to plug in the products from my Shopify store into there. And that's just a huge boom to getting the baseline for how do you then refine it for what you needed to say.
Correct.
Yeah, I
And
think it has
just
enormous
evolve
potential.
with it.
Yeah.
As it evolves, you evolve. As it develops, learn learn as you go.
Yeah, exactly. So Sherry, you've had a lot of experience coaching in the past. What impact has health coaching had on your current program?
Well, and it circles back to the beginning of this conversation, and just really understanding, if we're going to talk about mindset here for a moment, and just, how do you wake up in the morning and deal with those willies, and some people are dealing with a lot of anxiety. And as it were, in recent coaching practices, I've come across quite a few clients that are entrepreneurs. They're out there, they're running their own business, but they're dealing with either emotional trauma, or they're dealing with ADHD, or they're dealing with whatever it is that, they're dealing with some emotional trauma that they need to manage. So that mindset is important to learn and understand how to manage it. Now, personally, for me, I use it like a toolbox. There's a toolbox of ways for you to manage anxiety. And, I use music, I use fitness, I use essential oils, I use motivation from, some of my favorite YouTube people. There's just ways that you can deal with your anxiety without pills. There's lots of herbs and adaptogens that you can use as well that are healthy and natural, but you don't have to necessarily go and run for the pills, as it were, to manage some of these things. So, for sure, your nervous system is going to be cranked up at this time. You've got every dog in the lane talking about a recession. You've got every clickbait title out there trying to get you to figure out, like, the end is finally here. Like, what end? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
So every title clickbait out there on YouTube is out there to try and scare you half to death, just to make you click on their video. And sometimes you click on these videos and they're not talking at all about what this clickbaity title just talked
exactly.
about. So don't get
Exactly.
lured into some of these things. The best practice that I find is getting out into nature, so that when you're feeling the willies and they're starting to overwhelm you, when you go for a walk out in the forest and you're like, oh yeah, Earth. We live on Earth. We don't live in digital land, like, there's trees and there's grass out there, and that's what it's all about, looking at mountains and lakes and things like that. So I'll even play, I have a big screen TV, and I'll just play background beautiful scenery of Switzerland and the Netherlands and wherever, Banff, and you'll walk into the living room and there it is, these beautiful mountains and animals and all sorts of things, just to bring you back to, oh yeah, we live on Earth. We're not being taken over by robots.
This is true. I am going to have to get you some videos for you to play of Tasmania. We have some gorgeous
Yeah,
scenery here. I can tell
yes,
you.
absolutely. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe you could walk us through some of the steps that 7 to 8 figure business owners need to not just survive, but to actually thrive in this upcoming times, whatever they may be.
Yes, so we talked on two of them already. So when you're looking at your business, you want to look at the profit centers that exist within your business today. So the email list being one of them, and each of one of these things that I'm going to talk about are just little seeds that, in your regular routine, in your everyday Monday to Friday or 7 day, whatever you're working, is just slowly plant seeds in each one of these departments. And next thing you know, you're going to plant these beautiful pillars within your business. So the email list was one. Community, again, double down on your community, double down on experience and interaction, and that people are going to be craving human contact. They're going to be craving real conversations. So if you have 100,000 plus people in your Facebook community or your Slack channel or your Discord, what ends up happening is that now you can offer joint venture deals or sponsorship deals where people are going to want to come in, speak on a podcast. They will pay to be a part of your podcast because they know they're speaking to an audience that they have a product for. So when you have a very specific avatar in your community, now you know the right people that will pay to be in front of those people. So that's a television, advertising, radio channel right there where you're going to be able to make money from your community, especially if you have decided to make a subscription model. So when we're talking about perpetual products, we're talking about making an opportunity for your clients to always stay in your world and never have or want a reason to leave. So when they come into your world, you've got them. Now keep them there. Keep them there with a beautiful experience. Treat them with belonging, with love, with acceptance. Make them feel like, hey, you are really important to us. We did not just swipe your credit card and say, thanks, you'll hear from us in 10 days. I have seen this epic mistake with marketing agencies in particular, where they will work hard, they'll pay for that client, they'll attract the client, they'll get them on the call, they'll swipe the card, and then they'll say, I'll see you in 2 weeks for your onboarding call. I just gave you $5,000. So it's really important for your clients, number one, to have a win in the first week of meeting you, whether you send them a gift or you make them feel extra special, or you have someone personally onboard them into your product. They need a win, and you should have some form of guarantee or a return on investment for being there. And it doesn't have to be a financial return. It means that if you're here, you're going to get back what you paid for. That's return on investment, really getting what you paid for. So those items with your product or your service of what you're offering is number one. Number two, the ascension model, having something else for them to ascend to, that when they've completed this thing with you, they're like, no, wait, I want more. When was the last time you bought something as a consumer and you're like, no, I want more? So you are a master at what you do. If you say, I got more, no problem, I have that next thing for you. And if you've run out of things for your client to ascend to, a cross promotion, something that's adjacent, something else that they need that maybe you don't specialize in, but you have partnered with somebody else to bring them in, and that is the next place for them to go to stay in your world. So if you have some form of subscription model that allows them to continuously add or remain or have value for a monthly subscription, if you have a situation where people renew with you, if it's annually, if it's quarterly, they want to renew with you and they can't wait. They're calling up saying, when's my renewal date? I don't want to miss the next option. You're laughing, right? Because it's like,
no, that's the ideal.
So not common.
Every consultant,
it's so not common. People are so worried about that initial first got you, like got your $30,000, got your high ticket sale. Now you're with me for the year, and then it's on to the next. But wait a minute, you still have a year of fulfillment with that person. How do you make sure they're with you for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? So that customer experience, the ascension model, the cross sells, the renewals, all of these things are wrapped around the customer experience. And if you really think about how your customer is feeling, I remember I joined a mastermind not long ago, and I gave them my money, and it was 10 days before I got to experience anything. And even though I was going under my own anxiety with that purchase, I'm like, what did I just do? Like, what did I just do? What did I just commit to doing? What happens in that moment is are you as a company coming in and saying, I've got you. You're in the right place. You made the right decision. And this is why. These things are so important.
Yeah, that is. You're really sharing some incredibly valuable tips and tools here. That's just, and strategies on how to make it work and grow your business dramatically. Because you're not talking about just small growth. You're talking about exponential growth from the strategies I've heard you talk about here today, Sherry. So really, thank you for putting that all out there. But would these also work for small to medium-sized businesses as well? I know you're used to working with the top tier performers and agencies and coaches and consultants. Would you suggest doing something differently if they were doing less than $1 million a year?
What I can tell you is these strategies are mainly online based,
Right.
but it's common practice for any business. What is a business? A business that is exchanging money for value, whether it be through time, product, service, whatever. It is me giving you money for something else. And nowadays, at the bottom line ends at, did you make me feel good being in your world? Classic example is I had a snow removal guy, and if you go to my Facebook, you're going to just see how much snow. We're minus 27 here in Quebec today, so it's like,
Cool.
it's
That's
very
chilly.
cool.
That's very chilly. Yeah.
So, you know, the way that they got me in their marketing is they said, we are the first and only company to text you a half an hour before we come to do your snow so that you have enough time to remove your car. Makes a lot of sense. And that
Yeah.
one promise alone was enough for me to dial in and say, yes, absolutely. Now, Barbara, let me ask you, do you think that they fulfilled on that promise?
I sure hope so. They
No,
didn't.
they have not fulfilled. Sometimes they text, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they text and they show up 2 hours later. They've made a promise that they did not commit on, number one. The second thing is, I'd say about a month ago, we had about 3 or 4 centimeters of ice rain. And what happens is that most snow removal companies will not come out until it's at least 5 centimeters, which is reasonable. But
Yeah.
I called up my people and I said, look, I have got an ice rink on my driveway and it is pure, like this is all came
Nice.
out, all
Yeah.
ice. I said, are you guys heading out? Like, can you come and with your plow and that heavy equipment, can you just pull back whatever you can? He was so rude, Barbara,
Oh my
so rude
God.
with me on the phone. Not even a polite, like, sorry, we don't have the equipment. My guys aren't here, blah, blah. Like, I didn't even get any of that. It was like, what? You think we're an icing company? That was
Oh my
his response.
God. Oh no.
Okay.
So they had a great marketing person, but the actual delivery was by the same rude
It was
guy.
horrible. It was I hate to be stereotypical, but there are typical
Oh
type of
man.
people that you might anticipate that kind of a service from. And, so you don't have to be a million. This guy is not $1 million business. I can tell you that much. It's a pure exchange. Now, last question, Barbara, do you think I'm renewing with him next year?
Yeah, I'm surprised you have a commitment, then you're gonna keep them this year. That's my
Well, I've got
surprise.
no choice. I pick, you have to pay in full for these guys. So, but
Okay.
that's the thing is that if you make a promise, stick to it. Make sure you live up to it. I'm curious, a real Gary V kind of a guy, if you've heard him tell that story about him getting in the car and driving that wine, like, I don't know, 5 hours away just to get that wine to that girl's door. If he had that kind of mentality, he would have said, you know what, my guys are not called out on this, but I'll pass by in my own truck and I'll see if I can lay down some salt for you.
Yeah,
I wonder how many calls he got that day. And if
yeah,
I was even one of 5 calls, I'm just wondering what that would have done. Now, that reaction would have been like, I'm never changing this company.
yeah,
This
yeah.
company that goes the distance. And do you think I'm going to be talking about him to that neighbor, to that neighbor, to that neighbor? Hey, the guy I called, he got in his truck and came in here and just made sure that I didn't fall on my butt. Like,
Yeah.
it's the make or break about your business. Now, if he'd had 100 calls that day, I could understand not being able to put up with that bandwidth, but not being rude, answering the phone professionally, doing whatever he could to just say, hey, let me see if I can do something for you in the next 24 hours. Would that be okay? These are choices as business owners that we all have to make. And today, I'm sorry, but customer service is going to win every day of the week, every day. If you're going to double down on anything, it better be in the way how you treat your customer.
Yeah, and I think also people don't understand that the explanation isn't always, I'll drop everything and go there, even though I don't have the equipment. It's saying, giving them some answer and some hope or some way that they can help relieve that problem. Because again, if you had that problem, you had an ice rink at your place, everyone else did too. Whether he says, I'm not equipped, I can't handle it, but we're going to load up on sand and salt, the next time we'll be equipped and we'll take care of you.
Yeah.
It's just shocking that he doesn't see the business opportunity, because that to
These
me is an
are,
opportunity. It's a huge problem that he can't deal with today, but just saying, I'm on it, I'll get to it by tomorrow, or whatever he needs to say is a whole different answer than expecting everyone, you probably weren't expecting him to drop everything and come to see you, but to
I
say,
wasn't.
right,
It's
right.
something reasonable. And you'll
Yeah,
see that in businesses, you've seen it, Barbara, I know you have, where you just got off the phone with a certain business and you were just like, damn, I did not expect that. That's amazing. Like, wow. And when you've hung up the phone and your client is going, wow, I can't believe that that's how they're treating me. That's amazing. Well, you're not, because it's my mouth that's going to bring you more business. It's going to make you or it's going to
yeah,
break you. So referrals, testimonials, and reviews. Okay.
yeah,
So I would have said to that guy, listen, I understand you're a unique case. I've got maybe 5 people today. Would you mind? I'd like to come and do that salt for you. Do you think you might be able to post me a great review on Trustpilot? Because when you have 1,500 4.5-star reviews on Trustpilot,
yeah,
no one can argue with you
yeah,
because you're like, got it. But, I understand you might be an isolated case. We've had a little bit of a problem with your account. I'm really sorry. But as you can see from my Trustpilot reviews, I'm a man of my word. I honor my commitments and we'll do anything we can, within reason. No one's saying that you have to be taken advantage of, but I think that there's a competitive edge and it's up to you to manage it.
yeah, I agree. That's a fabulous story that's so current, I'm sure, in your mind with that freezing cold weather you've got there.
Yes, of course.
So I think, we've talked a lot about as well the mindset of the individual owner. How would you recommend an entrepreneur or this coach or consultant deal with the person they're talking to about making an investment in their business now? So if you've helped the owner deal with their stress, how do you help them, or do you have words for them to help make the sale to that other person they're working with who is also afraid and scared and hasn't done the mindset work that you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think well, I mean, first of all, if we're talking sales from B2C, you need to understand the high ticket sales and selling and study this. That's again a very wide conversation for the scope of this podcast, but for sure, understanding how to sell to your customer and dealing with objections. But if we're talking about an entrepreneur who's nervous about investing going forward into this economy, you really have to understand what you as the owner are doing to bottleneck your business. And I just had a conversation this morning, in fact, with someone who is more reserved in wanting to invest in some of the things in his business that are going to allow to open up opportunities, whether that be in Facebook ads or in consulting or in just understanding and getting the expertise that you need. Is that most entrepreneurs are the bottleneck of their business. And there is a fear that says,
Yeah,
I can't afford to hire this person, so therefore I'm going to do it myself. And you don't always have the expertise to do it yourself. So you have to rely on someone who can open those doors for you, and 3 months faster than you scratching at your head trying to figure it out, because more often than not, you're going to spend a lot more money trying to figure it out on your own than taking the direct route from someone who knows what they're doing. So, when it comes to that sort of thing, you have to be careful. There's a lot of swindlers out there, and you can lose a lot of money very fast if you're not shopping carefully and mindfully and looking at
yeah,
those reviews and looking at those testimonials and all those things
yeah,
that you want to see to get that confirmation. But all I can tell you is that one of the things I specialize in doing is looking at the very top of the funnel when someone first becomes aware of your business, throughout all the steps that it takes to get that person to renew 2 and 3 times later. And
yeah,
that really is looking at awareness and then subscribing, and then converting, and then advocating for your business, all of those steps. So you have to look at the roles that you're playing at each one of those steps in your business. And then you have to say, am I being the bottleneck somewhere here? Is my lack of knowledge on how to do something holding my business back from getting to the next level because I'm too afraid to invest in the ad, in the SEO, in the whatever the thing might be that's going to take your business to the next level? So that's what I would advise.
Yeah, fantastic. Because I think people really, when they're thinking of that cost, and all of them aren't thinking of it as an investment, as we try to say, you're making an investment in your business. Many entrepreneurs are looking at it as a cost, but they're not calculating in the opportunity, lost cost of opportunity. And so losing those extra sales you would have had for 3 months would have financed and finished probably that investment much quicker than you could possibly be done, and you'd be sitting pretty and stress with much less stress once your business is operating properly. So I think that's great advice. I wanted to touch on one more thing before we finish up here. You've used the phrase when we were first chatting about having a non-negotiable life. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, and when I said your health is non-negotiable, it's because your body cannot negotiate with you no matter how hard you try. And I think that the similar mentality comes for your life. So before we started the podcast today, Barbara, we were talking about, an expansion on and expectations on people's time, while bigger companies are doubling down and firing employees, or making people work 2 and 3 different types of roles and responsibilities and burning out. And I used to be a massage therapist back in my health serving days. And the expression was burn them and turn them. And that's pretty much the way how big business looks, right? So
Yeah.
they don't care if they're burning you out. So when I was working in with a lot of clients, for example, that was in pharma, pharma was notorious for giving people roles that they couldn't sustain for very long because they could save the money. And our competitive nature in wanting to excel and outdo the other guy and get the promotion and outwork the other person. Well, what's happening now is that you've got so much wiring happening with the body where we cannot physically deal with it. We've got people who are having all these emotional issues, all of these mental health problems that we're having. You've got all these people who are burning out, all of these anxiety, everyone's got the drugs now to deal with anxiety that are masking all of these problems. And that is your life that we're talking about. That is the way that you're going to spend your time. So when you are 80 years old and you sit back and you think, damn, I wish I just closed one more deal. Your life is not going to be saying those things. Your life is going to say, why didn't I spend the time with my 3-year-old when he still was saying "fui" instead of 3? Why did I not go to the park more and throw the ball? Why didn't I go on more hikes and listen to more pebbles, babbling brooks and all of those things? Like, think about the way you are living your life, make room and space for the people, for the moments, for the nature, for the scents, smells, experiences. Go on more vacations. You'll always figure out how to pay for it later. You got to also live life, and your life is non-negotiable.
That's fantastic. I'd like to end on that note here. That's a great summary. I think we really do share a lot of the same values and approach to business. Anything else I've missed asking you that you'd like to talk about today?
Oh my gosh, I think we've gone down some great rabbit holes. I've had just a fantastic time being here. So just encouraging you all, reminding you that your body is your temple. It's not just a saying, it's the machine. And so just like any mechanic has to sharpen his tools, your body is your machine. It's there to serve you in your peak performance as an entrepreneur. Don't give away the farm and sacrifice everything about your own life just because Gary Vee tells you he can work until 3 o'clock in the morning. Enjoy parts here and take time to enjoy life too. You just never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Sometimes we could have a whole pandemic and we're all stuck inside again. So just, take time to enjoy life. Smell the roses, as they say. Treat your clients really, really well, and you'll have a thriving business this year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So how can people reach you who'd like to connect with you, Sherry?
Absolutely. I believe you're going to add my Facebook and LinkedIn links here into the video. My name, s@sherrythacker.com. Very easy as far as my email goes. Certainly happy to have a conversation with anybody who would like. No consult or any kind of call to action, just love interacting with people, networking with people, building relationships, and any way that I can help you out, I would be happy to do that.
Well, thanks for coming on today, Sherry. I really did enjoy this conversation. I think it's vitally important today for people to understand that link between their life and their business, and how do you grow your business and keep a life that you enjoy living. So thanks for listening to all of you. And you can reach me on LinkedIn at Barbara Longue. Send me a message that you heard me on this podcast, or grab my new Conscious Capitalist Blueprint at newconsciouscapitalist.com. I'll be back soon with some more tips to help you grow your business right now and get ready for the next uptick. So thanks a bunch, Sherry.
Bye, everyone.